This JKS J-Spec 3.5-inch J-Control lift kit for your 4-door 2007 and up JK is for those of you looking for a very complete lift kit. This kit's going to include a ton of components and also is going to be a little bit more expensive than some of the others out there because of it. Now, because this is the J-Control version of this lift kit, it's going to include a couple more components than the regular JKS lift kit will. Getting this kit installed is going to be around a 2 out of 3 wrench installation that will probably take you 3 to 4 hours to install. We'll go through the components of this kit one by one. It is going to include a set of 4 coil springs that are going to provide that 3.5 inches of lift for your JK, and these are going to be a dual rate coil. Whether you prefer a progressive, a triple rate, dual rate, or a linear spring is really up to you. There's a lot of debate on which one is better, but these are going to be a dual rate, so you're going to have a slightly stiffer rate once the spring is fully compressed, and something a little bit softer to provide a little bit of a nicer ride when you're at full ride height just cruising down the road. The kit is of course going to include a longer set of shocks to work with that new higher ride height. These are going to be the Fox Adventure series shocks, so they're not going to be the T6061 aluminum of some of the other Fox shocks. These are going to be a powder coated shock that is a alloy material, so not quite the top of the line for Fox, but still a shock that's going to ride very comfortably and also going to be very, very well built. As you can see by the bands on this shock, this is going to be a nitrogen charged shock. The nitrogen in a nitro shock is there to eliminate any bubbling or cavitation that you can get in the shock fluid, which can eventually cause some shock fade. So even if you're working this shock over a long period of time doing some higher speed washboards or just a long day of wheeling, you're not going to end up with any shock fade with a shock with a nitro charge like this. Over here you have a set of JKS quicker disconnects, which are a really nice set of sway bar end link disconnects. These have a disconnect on both the top and the bottom, allowing you to very easily and quickly completely remove the sway bar end link, throw it in the Jeep, have full flex, have full articulation off-road, giving you a ton of additional traction. And of course, this is also going to be a greasable and adjustable sway bar end link, so it's going to hold up really well over time and you can get it dialed in exactly where you want it. Over here, you're going to have a rear track bar bracket and a front adjustable track bar. The track bars are going to help you to recenter the axles underneath the Jeep after you have the new lift. You're also going to get your roll center and rear suspension geometry back into spec with the rear track bar bracket. Now, those are the pieces that are going to be included in most of the JKS J-Spec lift kits, but because this is the J-Control kit, it includes a few additional components. Over here, you have some control arm geometry brackets. And the point of those brackets is to roll the axle back toward a factory spec, which is going to help with your pinion angle and also your caster angle. The caster angle is going to ensure that the wheels want to recenter while you're driving down the highway so you don't get that flighty, wandery feeling, and the pinion angle reset is going to ensure that you don't end up with any driveline vibrations. Now, these control arm brackets are going to hang down a little bit lower than your factory control arm mounts will, so if you're somebody who's looking for a ton of clearance or a ton of additional articulation, you're probably going to want to look at a kit that includes control arms or upgrade to control arms down the line. But for now, these are going to get you back on the road and they're going to work very, very well. The J-Control version of this kit is also going to include a drag link flip kit. And what that's going to do is flatten out that drag link angle, which is going to help with any additional feedback that you may have gotten through the drag link by having a very steep angle. Having this flatter angle is going to make the Jeep perform and ride a lot better both on-road and off-road and just be a lot more comfortable to drive in general. Now, those of you who know suspension geometry will know that you need the drag link and the track bar to be in parallel to avoid any sort of bump steer, and that's why they provide a front track bar bracket in this kit as well, making sure that those bars stay in parallel and you don't have any geometry issues. The kit's also going to include every bit of hardware that you're going to need. It's going to have brake line relocation brackets, so you're not going to have to worry about pulling a brake line taut when you're off-road, and it's going to include all of your bump stop extensions that you're going to need to ensure that you're not going to damage those brand new Fox shocks. Getting this kit installed is going to be around a 2 out of 3 wrench installation that will probably take you 3 to 4 hours to install, especially if you're doing this in your driveway on your back with some traditional hand tools. If you have power tools, pneumatic tools, a lift, all of those things are going to speed things up, but all you're really going to need is a socket set and some wrenches to get this installed. Nothing fancy, anyone can do this in their driveway. Now the first step in the installation is going to be jacking up the Jeep and supporting it by the frame, and then removing or loosening anything that keeps the axles from completely drooping. That's going to be your shocks, your track bars, your brake line brackets, and your sway bar end links. Then you can completely sag the axles down, remove the old springs, and install your new springs. At that point, before you put weight on the new axles, you're going to go ahead and install those geometry correction brackets up front by removing one at a time your control arms from the frame side, bolting your brackets in place, and then bolting those control arms back into the brackets. As you're reinstalling things, you're just going to be swapping out your new components. So instead of bolting up your factory shocks again, go ahead and install your new longer ones. Of course, install your drag-link flip kit, your track bar and your track bar brackets, and all of your brake line extension brackets before putting the tires back on the Jeep and getting it back on the ground again. There are quite a few components included in this kit. However, the installation process isn't too much different from most of the others. These are parts that you're going to be taking off with pretty much any lift kit. Instead of putting the factory one on, you're going to be replacing it with the components in this kit. This kit's gonna run you right around $1,700, and for a lift kit that's as complete as this one is, I don't think that's a bad price. Not only are you getting a ton of components that are going to make the lift kit work very well on-road and off-road, you're also getting very high quality components, which are gonna help with the ride quality and longevity of this lift kit. So if you have the budget for it, you're looking for a kit that is really all-inclusive, I think this is a nice option. So if you're looking for a truly complete lift kit, I definitely recommend looking at the JKS J-Spec 3.5-inch J-Control lift kit for your 2007 and up JK that you can find right here at extremeterrain.com.